Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
I
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Thursday, May 18th, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. A white Republican in North Carolina stands up and literally asks one of the most racist questions to a black lawmaker you've ever seen. We will talk to that brother about the sheer stupidity and the bigotry that took place yesterday on the floor in North Carolina, and is not a shock from the Republicans in that state. Also, chaos on Capitol Hill, where you have that crazy fool Jim Jordan, his committee on weaponizing the FBI. Oh my God. Just, you want to see stupidity? We'll show you that level of stupidity. Also, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a white supremacist, getting mad because she got called a white supremacist. Now she's like, oh, the big scary black man threatened me. Lying her ass off as usual. We'll talk about Congressman Jamall Bowman and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Plus, Congressional Black Caucus had their democracy summit last week. Congressman Stephen Horsford, chair of the CBC, will be joining us right here on the show. Bowman will also be on the show as well. Plus, we'll get an update in the case of Delaware State University. Those women's lacrosse team were pulled over by the cops. The lawyer will tell us what's going on in that particular case. Y'all, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Haitian Flag Day. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's rolling Martin, yeah. Rolling with rolling now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's rolling Martin now.
All right, y'all. I've long told y'all about the racist Republicans in North Carolina. I mean, they have done everything they can to talk about disenfranchise and degrade black people. But we saw yesterday, again, that racism on display. This took place just yesterday on the floor in North Carolina. And folks, talk about just utterly ridiculous. I'm just going to play this. Okay, this is Representative Abraham Jones. He's interrupted by Jeff McNeely with this stupidity. Watch.
Mr. Speaker, can I ask the representative a question?
Representative Jones, does the gentleman yield to a question from the gentleman from Iredell, Representative McNeely?
I absolutely will yield. Yes,
He
sir.
yields.
Representative Jones, I want to ask you the question is, I understand that you went into public school and you went to Harvard and Harvard Law. And the question, I guess, is, would you have been able to maybe achieve this if you were not an athlete or a minority or any of these things, but you were a student trapped in a school that the slowest, you know, in the wild, we'll say the slowest gazelle does not survive, but yet the herd moves at that pace. So the brightest child sometimes is held back. And don't we
point of order?
Gentleman may state his point of order.
Okay, I'm hoping I wasn't the only one that got shocked by that comment, that the only reason you went to Harvard is because you were black and an athlete?
No, I did not say that. I said, did that end up being one of the reasons? I do not know that. I asked him this. Right. I asked him this.
Okay, all right.
I don't mind answering.
Gentleman doesn't answer the question. Sorry, I was reading the note here, so I didn't hear what was.
I apologize, and I'll reframe.
The gentleman from Iredell is no longer recognized. For what purpose, the lady from Wake, Representative Gill, rise. Representative Jones, do you still have the floor, sir, to debate?
I was trying to wrap up.
The gentleman has the floor to wrap up his remarks.
Okay. I just want to say that I'm just going to say one thing. Harvard had 5 rankings for their students. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I graduated from Harvard, I was in rank 2. So I earned my place, and I did well. Now.
Woo! All right, y'all. Okay, so later, the white racist who asked the question released this statement. I respect Representative Jones. I think he's a great legislator. I think he's a great man. What I tried to ask or say did not come out right. That happens a lot, and I apologize. North Carolina Representative Abe Jones joins us right now from Raleigh. Representative Jones, when this fool says, oh, it didn't come out right, that happens a lot. No. It came out exactly like you often say it, and we know exactly what happens because I think all of us have experienced that from some white bigots.
You want me to respond?
Oh, yes. Go right ahead.
Well, Mr. McNeely shouldn't have said what he said. And I was offended. And I let them know that I went to Harvard not on an athletic scholarship, as was implied by his statement, or because of my race. I went to Harvard based on my academic achievements. And I was ranked pretty high when I came out of Harvard undergrad at level 2, which was right below level 1, which was the highest level. And then I went on to Harvard Law School. So I was simply taking exception to him implying that I was simply there because I was an athlete, and I was an athlete, and that I was a minority, and I am a minority, obviously a black man. But that's not what got me in, and that's certainly not what got me through and out and on to the law school.
Well, here's the deal. You don't have to justify or explain away anything. And look, the reason I say we all been there, look, whenever I'm flying or going somewhere and a lot of white folks see me wearing Texas A&M gear or they see this Texas A&M ring I have on, they'll sit here and go, this is how they start. Oh, did you play football? Hell no. I had one person say, do you have a child who plays there? Hell no. Then they ask, are you a fan? No, dumbass, I'm a graduate. See, so a lot of, when they see somebody black going to a major school, it's, oh, you had to have played sports. That had to be how you got in.
Yes. Yes. And I did play a sport, track, cross country, but that's not how I got in. In fact, I don't even think they knew that I was in sports when I got in. I got in because I was in the National Honor Society, and I had a very high average. and so they wanted me for my scholarship, not because I was an athlete and not because I was black. So that was the point I tried to make, and I did make it clearly. And I resented what was said. However, I did accept Mr. McNeely's apology because I felt I wanted to be just as gracious and forthcoming as he was. So I did. That was sincere. I accepted. He gave it, and I won't judge it. I simply said I accept it because I wanted to make it clear to my seatmates and my colleagues that I was ready to move on, and I am.
Well, look, you way better than me. I mean, I get the whole deal with accepting, but let's be clear here. We're talking about a Republican Party that has done a significant amount of work to disenfranchise black folks. We have seen them with voter suppression. We've seen them with voter ID. We've seen them with racial gerrymandering. We have seen them with a federal panel rule. There was a laser-like precision to target black folks when it comes to voting in early voting. And so it's not like the North Carolina Republican Party is a friend to black people.
I agree with you on that. I think it's been a bad environment here this year in particular. I think more is to come. I expect that there are going to be some voting requirements now that the Supreme Court, which shifted from Democrat to Republican in the last election in 2022, will now allow the legislature to set some rules about voter ID. And frankly, I'm ready, waiting on the voter ID requirements because I want the voter ID to be free, since we can no longer challenge it because the Supreme Court, the big Supreme Court, has sent it all back to the state Supreme Courts. And so we must fight on and make sure that the voting privilege and right of our people is protected. The atmosphere is now there's open season that they can put in these requirements, and we need to keep on struggling in the legislature. We're in the minority, and but that doesn't mean we don't have a voice and a vote, and I plan to exercise mine.
Were his fellow Republicans embarrassed by what he said?
Yes. I will say this. Half dozen or more of them came to me privately and expressed concern and apologized for him, actually. So I did appreciate that. Yes, they were. Some were. And I suspect many were. Because yes.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, and I believe those were sincere, and I took them as such. It doesn't change the climate, doesn't change the problem, but they did come to me and apologize in his behalf.
It is the thing here is that, look, I say this all the time. We're living in a social media era where folks got phones and everything. Many of these bigoted folks are showing us exactly who they are with their comments. And frankly, I've said this, that Donald Trump has opened the door for these folks to say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and the stuff that they had been said privately, they now say publicly without any blowback whatsoever. I also saw a tweet from the head of the North Carolina Democratic Party, who said the last time this guy ran, he ran unopposed. That's not going to happen next time. This, to me, is part of the problem why you have Republicans with a supermajority in North Carolina, a supermajority in Tennessee, is because oftentimes they are running unopposed. In order to defeat these people, they must face opposition every single election.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's absolutely true. And we hope to field someone in every district next time. I will say out in that area, however, when you drive through on the interstate, by the main Interstate 40, there's a big Confederate flag that flies at maybe someone's private property, but it kind of sends a message to you that you're in a different sort of country. And I'm not trying to say everyone there feels that way, but certainly that's flying by the highway. And so, but we still should fight, even in districts where we may be outnumbered, to send the message you just made. And I believe we will going forward, and I hope we will. We have to stand up even when the numbers don't favor us, because we do have a voice. And it makes a difference because people like you will cover it, and it'll be covered, And I believe that they have. I've ended my remarks this way on another matter. The wind they have sown. You've heard that expression. You sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. Well, the wind has been sown, and the whirlwind's coming. And I believe that the whirlwind will be in the form of our votes, and we must continue to be vigilant and to be strong. And that's what I plan to be.
All right, then. Representative Jones, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, I'll discuss this next with my panel. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
Hi, I'm Anthony Brown from Anthony Brown and Group Therapy.
Hi, I'm BB Winans.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, y'all, welcome back. My panel, Greg Carr, Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University, joining us from D.C., Laura Victoria Burke, Black Press USA, Arlington, Virginia, Dr. Avis Jones-DeWeaver, political analyst, National Harbor, Maryland. Glad to have all three of you here. Ain't no way in hell, Avis, I would accept that bullshit apology.
Me neither. He's bigger than all of us. I'm just going to put it right on out there. But here is the thing that's interesting to me about that observation from that person. A couple of things that I think is important that people understand. It's been estimated that some 43% of the white students on Harvard's campus got there through legacy admissions.
Yep.
So let's just put that out on Front Street, okay? In terms of the percentage of black students on Harvard's campus writ large, they hit a record number this year of a whopping 15%, okay? And one is, even if one were to say 100% of them were admitted via affirmative action, which, by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with affirmative action. That's the least that we can get, given all that we've given this country. But if you were to make the argument that 100% were admitted via affirmative action, that's 15% of the entire population versus 43% of the people that are there, the white people that are there, did not get there based on their own merit, did not get there based on their grade point averages, did not get there based on their own personal intelligence. They got there because their mama, their daddy, their granddaddy, their grandmama, somebody in their family line went there. So if we want to talk about unfair admission to Harvard University, we need to look no further than the white population.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing that just always cracks me up, Lauren, is a lot of these white folks, they automatically assume that, oh, you got in because of affirmative action. And they always just operate as if they have impeccable credentials. Remember when you had the girl, I forgot, Sarah, Mary, whatever the hell her name was, the Fisher girl, who sued the University of Texas. She was mad because she blamed the black and Latino folk as the reason she couldn't get in. Well, when they actually pulled the research, they showed it was a whole bunch of white folks who had lower test scores than her who got in, but they did more stuff than just take a test. And again, this is what they do. They see us and they automatically assume, yeah, you're only in here because you played ball.
Well, yeah, the entire construct is you can't be smarter than we are. And you remember Donald Trump was, trying to in some way insinuate that Barack Obama's Harvard degree was not legit, which of course was all a bunch of nonsense. And then meanwhile, his son-in-law, they're all legacy. They got in because they, their last name, just to Avis's point. Abe Jones was real chill there, real chill. My energy is the Robert Reeves guy that got up and interrupted Neely, right? Reeves gets up and interrupts Neely and wants to go off, and everybody tells him to calm down. I actually think that with these things, we shouldn't calm down. Donald Trump has made it fashionable again to be openly racist. Donald Trump has made it fashionable again to say things are outrageous right in front of everybody. And that is part of what this is from. And I think the other part of it is just that Rep. Neely is just a dum-dum. I don't think there's anything much deeper than that, other than the obvious, idea in everybody's head, that does these types of things, that you can't possibly be better than me and you can't possibly be smarter than I am. And so there must be some other reason as to why you're here and you went to Harvard. Of course, that sticks in his craw that this guy went to Harvard. Why did this even come up in the first place? But you were right, Roland, to tell Rep. Jones, he doesn't have to explain himself. You don't have to explain yourself to these people. They want you, in this sort of defensive posture of having to explain your credentials. You don't have to explain anything. That's all a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, and the thing here, Greg, this happens in so many areas. And then what happens is, for a lot of us, this is where the phrase imposter syndrome comes in, where we feel a need to again explain. One of the best examples ever. Oh my God, he's an attorney out of Chicago. Why is his name escaping me right now? And oh my goodness. So my man is about 5'4", 5'5". I played golf with him. I can't believe his name escaped me. I'm gonna remember it in a second. So he gets on a plane. He's in first class. And so white guy sees him and Peter Bino. White guy sees him and he goes, well, you're not tall enough to play basketball. You're not big enough to play football, so how are you in first class?
Oh my God.
Now, mind you, Peter is like a $2,000 an hour attorney. Peter was one of the minority investors in the Denver Nuggets a couple decades ago. Peter, without missing a beat, Greg, says, I'm the biggest drug dealer in Chicago. Pulls out his Wall Street Journal, pops it, crosses his leg, and starts reading it. And the dude is sitting there, face is frozen, and Peter didn't say nothing for the rest of the flight. Peter was not, bruh, that's one of the best stories I've ever heard. Like, okay, so you want to wind up sitting in first class? I'm about to scare the hell out of you.
That's the brother, if memory serves me correctly. I haven't heard that name in years, Roland. That's the cat that wear the bow ties. He used to wear the bow ties a lot, I think. When he was on, yeah. The only better response to that would have been to ignore him. I think Asa Hilliard said this years ago. He said a little boy was called into the principal's office after he had scored a perfect score on a test. And the principal asked him, the white principal asked this little black boy, they say you're a genius. What makes you think you're a genius? And the little boy said, well, maybe the fact that it never occurred to me that I would ever answer a question like that. You see, the problem we see here is not Jeff McNeely, it's Abraham Jones. Brother, you don't have, as you try to tell this man, you don't have to explain anything to him. But let's just spend 60 seconds on Jeff McNeely. Jeff McNeely, who's the president and owner of a feed company, G&M Milling Company, founded in 1957, 7 years before he was born. Jeff McNeely, a 1986 graduate of North Carolina State. His only degree, by the way, because after that, he went into the family business. See, Avis is right, Doc, you're right. We're going to talk about affirmative action, just 5 minutes, because they're getting ready to get rid of affirmative action in the next couple of weeks. The Harvard case, they're going to get rid of it there in North Carolina. But let's talk about what the real affirmative action is in this country, which is whiteness. Jeff McNeely. Jeff McNeely, who after running the family business that he inherited, there looking silly in his Pee Wee Herman get-up. Jeff McNeely, who then was put on the county planning board, served for 4 years there in the county he represents, then ran for county commissioner and lost. So what happened? They eased him back on the county board for 12 more years. Then he ran for county commissioner finally and won in 2016. Jeff McNeely, who's in the legislature in North Carolina because the governor appointed him to replace a retiring legislator in 2019. Jeff McNeely is the face of affirmative action. You know what affirmative action is in this country? You said it, David. Whiteness. This man, when he asked that question, I would have completely ignored him. But here's where we come down to the real problem. Maybe the Supreme Court will endorse this independent state legislature business coming out of North Carolina, the Moore versus Harbor case. Maybe they won't. Now that they flipped it, thanks to this traitorous Democrat woman who's running as a stealth Republican, comes in and flips the legislature. But the point is this, brother, you can't make them like you. You can't answer a question. You can't be cordial. You can't be gracious. These white boys playing for keeps. You need to run over Jeff McNeely with both tires. This man is an absolute product of affirmative action, and his inherited business, with his son now running it, by the way, as vice president, inherited his political seat that he finally won after losing, keeping in park at the county commission till he could run again. He is the living definition of affirmative action. And unless you're going to say that to him, the best thing you could have done, brother, is like that little boy with the principal, just kept your mouth shut.
I mean, look, I get the whole idea of, this is what these lawmakers, they kill me with the whole collegial and, you know, we get along and, you know, the gentleman, the gentle lady, and all of that. See, that ain't me. My ass petty. I'm petty. I'm just letting you know. I'm petty. Because, see, I would have used my time to ask that clown-looking ass fool, pull the video of this suit he got on. I would have straight up, no hose barred, lit his ass up. I would have said, Representative, would you mind pulling out your high school transcript? I literally would have said, are you sad and offended that you didn't have the credentials to get into Harvard? That you had no choice? And then I would have said, you know, I find it interesting that you Republicans love to complain about elite universities, but you're wondering how I got into Harvard. I would have been petty. I'm just letting y'all know. Roe would have been real petty. Just like I was petty at Texas A&M when we had a speech communications class and my topic was affirmative action, and I got real petty with the class. And I had some white classmates, white boys and white girls who did not agree with it. And I said, let me ask you a question to the students in the class. How many of your mothers own businesses? So hands went up. And I said, I'm curious, how many of your mothers have contracts with school district, the city, the county, the state? Hands went up. I said, well, congratulations. All of you are having your tuition paid by affirmative action. I said, because the greatest beneficiary of affirmative action, white women. Then they all froze. They were like, no. I said, facts are facts. I said, now you might want to thank black people because the reality is, I said, your white racists from Virginia, they thought that they could kill the '64 Civil Rights Act by putting women into it, but that actually got them more votes. I said, so it's really because of black people that your mama got those contracts, because we're the ones who actually fought for it, because it was President Lyndon Baines Johnson who gave the speech at Howard University where he talked about taking affirmative action and said that's where it started. It wasn't with Richard Nixon. Of course, it was Arthur Fletcher who came in on the Nixon administration and moved it forward. I said, so all of y'all who are sitting in this class, whose mamas have governmental contracts, you should be thanking black people because affirmative action is how your mamas got their money. That's how petty I got. And this is how we, see again, I ain't explaining, justifying nothing to nobody. I ain't justifying nothing to black people. I damn sure ain't gonna justify nothing to anybody white. You're not gonna sit here and question, how did I achieve this? How do I achieve that? I mean, I'm just not going to do it. And you're not going to also think that you can talk to me in a language that I understand. Last point before I go to the break. So the previous house I lived in, 10,000 square foot, 4.5 acres. And so we move in, got my 6 nieces, they're in the driveway, you know, shooting baskets and everything like that. So a white guy next door decides to come by and be neighborly. Now let me be real clear with y'all. I don't like neighbors. I don't want to talk. I see people and talk to people every day. I don't want to talk to nobody when I get home. I just really don't. Some of y'all may like neighbors. I don't want to see nobody. That's why it was 4.5 acres. I wish the damn thing was 5 acres with a big ass fence. I don't want to see nobody. So he just moseyed his ass over and he decides to sit here and he's talking and I'm sitting here like, why is he talking to me? And so then one of my nieces walks over and says, hi, I'm so-and-so. I look at her like, did nobody ask your last come over here and give your name? I'm like, go back. So then all of a sudden at one point then he starts describing, now mind y'all, first of all, there were multiple $1 million houses in this area. The house was $1 million, it was $1.2 million. This fool goes, yeah, this is a nice hood. Now I was tolerating his ass. If y'all don't know me, and my family, staff could attest to this, when I'm through with your ass, you don't even exist. You could be standing here shouting, you don't exist to me. That's how petty I got with homeboy. At some point, we are going to understand when you're dealing with bigots, you're dealing with people who think that's how they're gonna talk to you, you don't give them any of your energy. You actually make them feel so small by either cussing them out, ignoring them, or making them feel real petty. That dude in North Carolina, absolutely, was a bigot with his statement. And he would have got all of my pettiness. I'm just saying. Gotta go to a break. We come back. We're gonna be talking with Congressman Stephen Horsford, Congressman Jamaal Bowman, dealing with that white supremacist Marjorie Taylor Greene. A lot of stuff to cover. Then, of course, we got that other fool, Jim Jordan, on the hill, where Stacey Plaskett had to put his ass in his place. Y'all, we got a whole lot to cover right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. You two folks, hit that like button. We should easily be over 1,000 likes right now. Also, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible to do what we do. Check your money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million. Download your copy on Audible. We'll be right back.
That was a pivotal time. I remember Kevin Hart telling me that. He's like, man, what you doing, man? You got to stay on stage. And I was like, yeah, well, you know, I'm young, thinking, yeah, I'm good. And he was absolutely right.
What show did you have at that time?
This was one-on-one.
Got it.
During that time.
So you're doing one-on-one, going great, you making money, you like...
I'm like, I don't need to leave. I don't need to leave from, you know, Wednesday, Thursday to Sunday. I didn't want to do that. You know, it was just like, I'm going to stay here. Or I didn't want to finish work Friday, fly out, go do a gig Saturday, Sunday. I was like, I don't have to do that. And I lost a little bit of that hunger that I had in New York. I would hit all the clubs, run around. Sometimes me and Chappelle or me and this one or that one. We'd go to the Comedy Cellar at 1 in the morning. And, I mean, that was our life. We loved it. You know, you do 2 shows in Manhattan, go to Brooklyn, leave Brooklyn, go to Queens, go to Jersey. And I kind of I got complacent. I was like, I got this money, I'm good. I don't need to go chase that, because that money wasn't at the same level that I was making, but what I was missing was that training.
Yes.
Was that.
And it wasn't the money.
It was the money, you know, it was that's what I needed.
Next, right here on The Frequency, the woman they call the Gifted Eye, hip-hop celebrity photographer Coy Soldier. She's the master storyteller that captured the history of hip-hop through the lens of her camera.
Tupac comes out, the next thing you know, you didn't know who they were at first. You just seen all these dudes just come rushing the stage. Then you realize Biggie gets a bottle of champagne, he pops it open, sprays it on the crowd, he drinks the bottle.
Coy Soldier, the hip-hop celebrity photographer, joining me right here on the next episode of The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
What's up? I'm Dr. Ricky Dillard, the choir master.
Hey, yo, Peace World, what's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, shout out to all the folks, the Haitians. Today is Haiti Flag Day. Of course, my paternal ancestors migrated from here, from Haiti, so I want to shout them out. That's why I'm rocking today's freedom shirt. All right, y'all. And, of course, the previous outfit I had, that was the fabric that I was given. I was in Liberia that I had made here. All right, let's talk about the sheer stupidity on Capitol Hill. All right, these Republicans and their weaponization committee actually tried to act like they had these 2 whistleblowers. Ooh, these FBI whistleblowers complaining about how they've had security clearances taken from them. Well, it's also because, let's just say, they were aligned with the January 6th white domestic terrorist. So the Republicans interviewed them, did not share the information with the Democrats, and then got an attitude, and then one of the witnesses was like, well, I don't want to meet with the Democrats, but then he's going to testify in open court, and Jim Jordan like, well, it's up to the witness. When the last time y'all heard, leave it up to the witness to decide who should get their testimony? Well, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, she wasn't having it.
They give us the bare minimum notice for hearings, no subject indicated. We learn who the hearing witnesses is from British tabloids. That's not normal in the House of Representatives. One must wonder, are Republicans scared of giving us the information so that we can do our own due diligence on these conspiracy theories, these ideas that they want to put forward? Indeed, today's hearing will be more of the same. Perhaps they're too far gone to realize that, in fact, this hearing is evidence, as if we needed any more, that MAGA Republicans are a threat to the rule of law in America. Less than 2 months ago, former President Trump, facing mounting investigations into his many alleged crimes, declared that, quote, Republicans in Congress should defund the DOJ and the FBI until they can come to their senses. And we all know that when Trump says jump, the Republicans in the House say, how high? So here we are, on Police Week, watching House Republicans jump to lay the foundation to defund law enforcement. My colleagues on the far right are on a mission to attack, discredit, and ultimately dismantle the FBI. This is defund the police on steroids. As part of their mission, my colleagues have brought in these former agents, men who lost their security clearances because they were a threat to our national security, who, out of malice or ignorance or both, have put partisan agenda above the oath they swore to serve this country and protect its national security. Just as a point of order, I understand, and we have been made aware from what you stated in your opening statement, as well as in a press conference earlier, that Mr. Allen did meet with you all and might have testimony that was transcribed. Neither, and I understand that he stated that he did not feel comfortable meeting with the Democrats. He's comfortable being here today in this open forum. We will be questioning him. Will you give us a copy of that testimony that was transcribed of your discussions with him?
It'll be up to Mr. Allen.
But you are in possession of them, aren't you?
Sure are.
So why would you not give them to us?
Mr. Allen's a whistleblower and he didn't want that to happen.
He didn't want, but he's comfortable here in open discussion with us today?
Sure is. You can ask him questions if you want.
You don't share your information with the minority?
Nope.
The whistle.
No, so you're not sharing information that you've obtained with the
whistleblower saw what you did with Mr. Friend and others, the false information you gave the press, so much so that they had to issue corrections.
The whistleblower doesn't decide that. The committee decides it.
And we've decided.
And you've decided that you're not going to share.
Mr. Allen is here. You can ask him questions. And we can talk about the testimony, but right now you're not getting the testimony. Mr. Allen's here to testify.
And you'll give us the testimony when? After he's left, or at no point in time, or when will we have that? That's only for the Republicans. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Chairman, the gentlelady did not state a point of order.
The point of order was, will he be giving us the testimony of the witness that is here before us, and that you have information of that you are not sharing with the Democrats?
Mr. Chairman, I move that
I was indulging the ranking member. The gentleman from California is right. She's not stated a point of order. The 5-minute questioning time.
So the point of order is I would like the testimony. I move that you give us the testimony of the individual.
Move to table.
Here.
There's a motion been moved to table. Chair, we will call.
So, Lauren, the thing here, these two so-called whistleblowers, former FBI agents Marcus Allen and Steve Friend, well, Allen's security clearance was suspended because he was unwilling to comply with rules and regulations. And that's really what we're dealing with here. And look, this is pretty much a joke from these Republicans. Look, the Democrats have been blasting them for their sheer stupidity. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, this is what she had to say to Jim Jordan and these nutcase Republicans.
Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding that...
Are you making a point of order?
No, I'm asking you a question.
Okay.
A point of inquiry.
Okay.
It's my understanding that the minority in this committee under the rules is entitled to the same testimony, information, documents that the majority is entitled to. So, I mean, I'm not aware that you're able to withhold information from the minority that we would need to use to prepare for.
When it comes to whistleblowers, you're not. And I would just remind the committee, remind everyone. Look, when it comes to whistleblowers, you are not.
That's not right.
It's shocking that the
that
gentleman.
Is not right.
It's shocking
in
that
fact,
the gentleman.
You talk so much about the whistleblower and the impeachment.
It's shocking that the gentleman from New York
all of
would
the
state
information
that
we had.
When you were part of an investigation with an anonymous whistleblower.
Mr. Chairman, these individuals haven't been declared whistleblowers.
I can't hear 5 people at once. Could we have regular order?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes it's.
I'm inquiring, and I was not.
And I've told you that when it comes to whistleblowers, you are not entitled to it. That's at the discretion of Mr. Allen.
Mr. Chairman, these individuals have been determined not to be whistleblowers. These are not whistleblowers. They've been determined by the agency not to be whistleblowers. Are you deciding that they're whistleblowers?
Yes, the law decides. Did you not listen to Mr. Levitt's testimony? Did you not read the law? The law decides that they are whistleblowers.
His attorney is asserting that they are whistleblowers.
The gentlelady from New York. The gentlelady from New York has been recognized.
The law has not determined they are whistleblowers. His attorney is just asserting that.
Lauren.
You know, where to begin, really. So this is just sort of complete clown time. What you're watching is a major Democratic Party devolve into just a circus of stupidity and clownery. Jim Jordan is just the second coming of Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy, who ran that complete BS Benghazi nonsense to distract everybody. This is all about making YouTube videos so that we can send a fundraising letter out later. So to make a YouTube video, you have to set up an idiot construct of something to get people outraged, to get your fundraising, going. And so you create this nonsense, you do a video. That's what they're doing with these hearings now every single time. They used to do it with Eric Holder all the time. And it's just out in the open. It's just really just out in the open. I was an intern on Capitol Hill back in the 90s. I cannot remember any sort of example of this that I've ever seen where the minority or the majority does not share the information. That's usually a standard committee rule for every committee in Congress. There's nothing exciting or crazy about that. Imagine, remember during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, there was this big outrage about a letter that Senator Feinstein had that Charles Grassley didn't see, and the Republicans flipped out because they didn't have that letter and all of this. But what's really happening here is that Jim Jordan, of course, doesn't want to give the minority, the Democrats, the information, because of course they're going to go to the press and say this is ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. And then the press will be that much further ahead in reporting how ridiculous it is. So to pull off the nonsense, to pull off the ridiculousness, you've got to walk into the committee with nobody knowing nothing, and then surprise everybody and get everybody off guard. And nobody is fooled. Jim Jordan is a silly person. Everybody knows he's a silly person. And you can't, be this stupid and this crazy and get away with it in the open air and think you're fooling anybody. They're not fooling anybody. They're just wasting time. They're creating segments for Fox News. They're creating YouTube videos and then moving on to the next thing and thinking that people are fooled, and they're just not.
Again, this is what happens, Greg, when folk don't vote, allowing these fools to get back in power. It's also what happens when you have Democrats in New York State who are stupid as hell, who gerrymander their districts so bad that they have Supreme Court rules against them. But that's also what happens when you have stupid Democrats who appoint Republicans to your state Supreme Court who issue those rulings. But these people are not ready for prime time, but people need to understand, if they think that this is light work, let that fool Trump get back into the Oval Office and see what happens.
Well, Roland, this is the age-old dilemma, isn't it? This is what you've been preaching for years and throwing your full body in and full resources in, getting people involved. When Cliff and Latosha talk about the fact that black voting matters, that people should participate and need to work hard at that, this is what they mean. A couple of weeks ago on the Black Table, we had a conversation with David Pepper, who used to be the head of the Ohio Democratic Party, wrote a book called Laboratories of Autocracy. And he talks about that fool that we just saw, Jim Jordan, spelled G-Y-M, of course, as people in Columbus, Ohio, at Ohio State University, who that blind eye hillbilly is. And he talks about the fact that voter turnout is what allows this fool to continue to come back to the federal legislature and fight arguably to be the dumbest member of the federal legislature since the beginning of the damn United States Congress. But it's the voter turnout. People need to wash them away. I just came back from Philadelphia last week. Voter turnout in the Democratic primary for mayor was abysmal. And, we saw what happened to Gary Chambers in Louisiana, and we all know, Mike Epstein in Louisiana, Mississippi, of course, and young Dan Cameron now. We got to be beset with him in a potential governor battle with Andy Beshear in Kentucky. When you stay home, this is what happens. And, we're talking about people who have the ability to rule over our lives. As Lauren said, as you said, sis, this man doesn't pass any legislation. He's a fool. He's there raising money. And you can't beat him with logic because the hillbilly is what they love. And finally, I'll say this: on the day that we saw Nancy Abudu appointed to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals and put it now at a 6-6 tie after Donald Trump flipped it with those Republican appointees, Joe Manchin flipped and didn't vote for her today. And when people say, well, none of this matters and stuff doesn't matter, if people had turned out, you wouldn't have to sweat Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema in the United States Congress, and you wouldn't have to worry about whether Dianne Feinstein has another 10 years or 10 minutes left in her life. The fact of the matter is, when you don't go to the polls, this is the kind of foolishness we have to put up with.
Oh, absolutely. And Avis, you see how these right-wing FBI agents, they all have infiltrated law enforcement, and these Republicans, we see what they're actually doing. And all of a sudden, they want to yell, defund the FBI, defund the ATF. And I'm like, Democrats, beat them over the head with that one.
Yes, they, you know, if Democrats had a backbone, they would. I mean, let's just, that's what's so frustrating to me, is that it's such easy pickings, such low-hanging fruit to, you know, point out the ridiculous hypocrisy of that, of individuals who obviously can't come up with an original thought to save their lives, using the same rhetoric that they pummeled Democrats with earlier with regards to a legitimate issue of police brutality against Black people. But at the end of the day, what we're seeing right now on Capitol Hill and what we will see as long as they have power, you know, hopefully something will change in the next election, is this is just a clown show. You know, bring up the popcorn. This is Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey in the people's house, because there is no desire there to pass any legislation. The Republicans don't give a damn about actually doing their damn jobs. They don't give a damn about that. They don't give a damn about the people they even represent. They really don't care. What they want to do, as Lauren rightly pointed out, is to use this as a fundraising mechanism so they can stay in power. And what they're trying to do is stay in power long enough. They're hoping to be able to retake the White House such that now they can push through more legislation that would be even more draconian than what they got through when Trump was in last time. Their whole point right now is to stall the reels of progress, because the first 2 years of President Biden's administration, he actually got a lot done, even though most people don't really know about what happened. Yep. A lot happened, okay? And their whole point right now is to gum up the system and to put on sideshows and clown shows and actually make clips and fundraising mechanisms so they can stay in power. So congratulations. That's what you get, once again, when you don't vote.
There you go. You get a clown show. All right, folks, we'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is RolandS.Martin.com.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're talking about leveling up, or to put it another way, living your very best life. How to take a bold step forward that'll rock your world.
Leveling up is different for everybody. You know, I think we fall into this trap, which often gets us stuck because we're looking at someone else's level up journey, what leveling up means to them. For some, it might be a business venture. For some, it might be a relationship situation, but it's different for everybody.
It's all a part of A Balanced Life. That's next on Black Star Network.
This is Judge Mathis.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mac Wild.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy, Jacob Lattimore, and you're now watching Roland Martin right now.
Zakira Carter has been missing from Fort Pierce, Florida since May 9th. The 15-year-old is 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighs 130 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Zakira has several piercings in her nose, tongue, and ears. Anyone with information about Zakira Carter should call the Fort Pierce, Florida Police Department at 772-467-6800, 772-467-6800. A Springfield, Missouri teacher is out of a job after being recorded using the N-word repeatedly in her classroom. A student actually recorded this. This is what was recorded.
It's the word at all, but I don't know. It feels like when a black person is using it towards another black person, it's the same. How is it not still a derogatory word? Derogatory, but you don't say it. I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, I kind of slave owners used to call them that, so it's just like a. So how do you right, but are you, and is the word nigger not allowed?
Okay, I'm gonna say right now, as a teacher, if you want to keep your job, this isn't a threat.
I'm not calling anyone.
No, I understand.
I can say the word. It's not.
Mr. Bowman,
Why are you saying?
No. I'm trying to say, like, as a student.
Now, the unidentified Glendale High School teacher was recorded again saying the N-word repeatedly in the classroom. The teacher noticed 15-year-old sophomore Mary Walton recording and asked her to stop recording. She was suspended for using her phone in class. Now, Walton's family retained an attorney to try and get the suspension lifted. The teacher, who was initially placed on leave, resigned. The Glendale High School principal, Josh Groves, sent a letter to staff and families addressing the language used by the teacher. This is what he wrote, quote, "We know a Glendale teacher using offensive, derogatory language during class today. A video of the comment is being circulated and we have received several calls from concerned parents. I want you to know that the comments expressed in the video are inappropriate, inexcusable, and do not meet the professional standards for Springfield Public School employees." Now, I've heard other folks have debates and conversations here, Greg, that this was actually a teaching exercise. And so, one, your take on this, and can there actually be a teaching exercise where the word is used?
I think so. But context is everything.
Yep.
First of all, let me just say very quickly that the young person who recorded it was suspended for 3 days. And when you read the policy of that school district, it seems very clear that they don't want anything recorded. And so there's a problem there. The family apparently has retained counsel to try to get that suspension reversed, but then they got to go into their pockets for money. Schools and prisons are two places where the First Amendment doesn't necessarily operate the way it does in the rest of the world. And that's problematic. I wanted to say that first of all. But Roland, I tell you, man, I mean, on the one hand, you have folks with the N-word in literature, whether it be Mark Twain or Toni Morrison, whether you be Amiri Baraka or Tony K. Bambara, whether it be, you name it. Now, if you're doing read aloud in class, I mean, you're not going to probably do that at the middle school level or at the elementary school level, but what do you do with an 8th or 9th grade classroom? What do you do in a situation where it is in the literature? Now, if you are a teacher, finally, what do you do when a student uses that word? As we probably all know and have heard in the class, in the hallways, that word often flies with reckless abandon. What do you do when it comes out of the mouth of a young person of African descent or a non-person of African descent and everybody starts giggling and then you come in and say you can't use that? Finally, as an adult in the classroom, if you're a teacher, I don't think it's ever appropriate for you to use the word in a kind of bannering, free way. But what I heard on that tape, what I heard on that recording was a teacher who shouldn't have used the word, but whose defense may very well be we were having a free-ranging conversation about the word's usage. And that becomes a gray area that sometimes is very difficult to parse. Jacques Berlinabal wrote a book called Classroom Confidential, and he said there are often very unfortunate things said in a classroom. But depending on the context and the intent, it could be that the intent was not to be racist, but to push a dialogue. I'm not defending the teacher. I'm just saying that that's a call that as a teacher, I try very hard not to ever put myself in a position to try to make.
Avis?
It seemed to me as if it was very clear that he was offending the Black students in that room. And it really came off to me that this is another one of those arguments that you hear oftentimes by what I find to be racist white people, in which they want to have this argument about why can't I say it? Okay. That's the feeling that I got from the energy around him when he didn't know he was being videoed. I would also say that I find the statement from the school to be disingenuous, because if it was really counter to their policy, they would have fired him instead of just, in essence, giving him a couple of days off and suspending the student who did what she did to collect the evidence that she needed in order to prove what was happening in that classroom, which she found to be offensive. And so, I have to say that I just believe this is an example of the fact that our culture is continuing to get more and more and more overtly racist. People feel completely racist, not even people, racist, feel completely comfortable saying whatever the hell they want to say in this society. And this is just the latest example of this. And if there needs to be, if this is against the rule of the school should have fired him. And so my next question is, I'm wondering what they're going to do if something like that happens in the future.
Lauren?
Yeah, I think we're way oversensitive about everything. And in an academic setting, I think that's hugely problematic. And I think that the context that he was talking about, it was the context of when and where it's appropriate and when someone's using it and not using it. To Avis's point, sure, some of that was the discussion around the why can't we use it, which is a ridiculous discussion. But I think not just with this story, we see it in a lot of academic stories lately over the last maybe 3 or 4 years, where just having a discussion about something is in itself problematic for a lot of the folks in the room who are the students. And to me, to have a full-fledged academic discussion about something, particularly controversial issues that may come up in literature and history, you have to be able to talk about things and hear things you may not want to hear. And I think increasingly we have a very oversensitive group of people out there who tend to be a little bit younger. It's like we're back in the Victorian era with some of them, who are just sensitive about everything that comes up. Things that they don't want to hear, that they disagree with, they do not want to hear, even in an academic setting. And I have a problem with that.
All right. Folks, hold tight 1 second. When we come back, we'll talk with Congressman Stephen Horsford, who is chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, about the Democracy Summit they held last week. What is their plan for this summer? He will explain. Also, we'll be joined this hour by Congressman Jamaal Bowman. Ooh, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Ooh, she a little upset because he called her white supremacist. He wasn't lying. We'll discuss it next. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, nurses are the backbone of the healthcare industry, and yet only 7% of them are Black. What's the reason for that low number? Well, a lack of opportunities and growth in their profession. Joining us on the next Get Wealthy is Needy Bartanilli. She's going to be sharing exactly what nurses need to do and what approach they need to take ownership of their success.
So the Black Nurse Collaborative really spawned from a place and a desire to create opportunities to uplift each other, those of us in the profession, to also look and reach back and create pipelines and opportunities for other nurses like us.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
It's Kim Whitley.
Yo, what's up? This your boy Ice Cube. Hey, yo, peace world. What's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Last week, the Congressional Black Caucus held a Democracy and Race Summit on Capitol Hill to discuss the ongoing attacks on democracy by the Republican Party. The CBC unveiled a number of legislative and legal plans to present in Congress that will recommend executive orders to the Biden-Harris administration to protect democracy and launch what they're calling the Summer of Action to Defend America around the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Joining us right now is Congressman Stephen Horsford. He is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. He hails from Nevada. And yes, he is wearing the black and old gold of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. All right, Congressman, glad to have you on the show. This summit, talk about the legislative ideas that y'all want to present to the Biden-Harris administration.
Well, great to see you. Thank you for having me on, Roland. The Congressional Black Caucus and our members, which we're now in our 51st year, we have 58 members. It's the largest number in our history. And as the conscience of the Congress, we understand that in critical moments like this, when our democracy and the fundamental institutions, whether it be the courts, our schools, and the institution of voting are under attack, we felt it was important to have a national convening where we brought in over 80 participants from around the country, leaders from civil rights organizations, academics, representatives from D9, as well as historically black colleges and universities, in order to develop a strategy, a message, and our plan to mobilize. What we know is the ideologically driven Supreme Court is on track to erode even more of our rights with the Voting Rights Act and decisions regarding affirmative action, which could have far-reaching effects on all types of racial-based policy, not only in higher education, but in contracting and in so many other areas. And so we did this convening, one, to help make sure all of our major stakeholders who are vested in protecting our democracy are on the same page and are getting the same information, that we develop this strategy around legislation, litigation, and mobilization so that we can go out and talk to our constituents this summer about the critical issues that are affecting their lives every single day.
So you talked about this summer. What is that going to look like? What is it going to entail?
So I'm so excited about this. In partnership with the Congressional Black Caucus Institute, the CBC will be doing really a summer of action all across the country. Our members, in partnership with local elected officials, black mayors, black county execs, black state legislators, as well as other stakeholders, will be meeting and convening in different communities. We're going to start in Charleston, South Carolina, of course, with Mr. Jim Clyburn. At the end of this month, we'll be in Nashville with Representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson to bring attention to the expulsion of those two young men and their special elections that are upcoming. We're going to go to places like North Carolina, where the Supreme Court there just announced racial-based gerrymandering. And we're going to go into places like Florida and Texas, where there are attacks on blackness, on being black, not only against our colleague Representative Jamall Bowman, but on the eroding of black history, banning of black books, and denying of the very existence of black people. So we're taking this issue directly to our people to galvanize the movement and to make sure they know the work that the Congressional Black Caucus is doing every single day in the House of Representatives.
Okay, are these events going to be live streamed? Will people be able to watch proceedings?
Absolutely. I look forward to partnering with you and other media outlets to make sure that folks can participate and engage. We're going to do this locally. This is not something the CBC is coming in and doing to communities. We're partnering with communities. So in some cases, we'll be doing roundtables. In other places, we'll be doing town halls or rallies. We're going into Chicago in the early parts of June with Representative Robin Kelly. And we're going to make sure that there's always a seat at the table for young people, particularly young black men, to have their voice heard in this process as we work to defend our democracy and to make sure people know what we're fighting for. The Supreme Court may very well try to erode additional protections under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, but that doesn't mean that we still don't have power to make sure that our voice is heard at the ballot box. There may be attempts to weaken protections against discrimination or racism because of the decision around affirmative action. And we've seen, again, the attacks on Blackness in places like Tennessee. But we're not going to be silent. We're going to bring our voices to this fight and make sure that our constituents are heard in the process.
Questions from the panel. Avis, you first.
Yeah, what do you see as the your desired outcome, your takeaway from this summer of action that you're planning?
Well, most importantly, it is to galvanize the movement, which is led by the people every single day in our communities. Learning from the experience of the Dobbs decision, the fact that that decision, when it was announced, actually leaked by the Supreme Court, a lot of people didn't know what to do. There was no plan, there was no strategy, there was not a message. And so the Congressional Black Caucus, in partnership with the CBC Institute and other partners, understands it's important for us to be proactive, to give people accurate and real-time information as these decisions are coming down, and not only to focus on what the Supreme Court is doing, but also to talk about what's happening in states like Tennessee, like Florida, like North Carolina, like South Carolina, and to make sure people know what their power is in helping to change it. The reason that Representative Justin Jones and Representative Pearson were able to be reappointed to their position that they should have never lost is because of the galvanizing support from the community on their behalf. And we want everyone to know that the Congressional Black Caucus stands with them, and we stand with every community that is under attack because our democracy is under attack. Our very existence and survival as Black people is under attack, and we're not going to be silent about it.
Lauren?
Chairman Horsford, great seeing you. So the meeting that you had last week, the staff, the senior staff was not in the meeting. So I'm curious, I guess I'm asking this as a former congressional staffer. I'm curious, like, why that was, because typically when the staff is not in the room, all the after action planning doesn't get done because the staff needs to be there to know what that after action planning is. So I guess I'm asking two things. One, why keep the staff out? And two, what exactly is the plan? It sounds a little bit performative to me. Push back on me if you want to on that, but it sounds a little bit like a PR thing when you talk about the two Justins, et cetera, and so on. Is it a legislative plan or is it just an amplification plan? And is the staff going to be involved in that moving forward? Thanks a lot.
First one, great questions. And there were staff in the room, to be clear. The Congressional Black Caucus is fully staffed, and they were participants throughout the entire day. And they're the ones who will actually make sure that all of the CBC staff and our partner affiliate agencies, the Institute, the Foundation, and our other organizations are working hand in hand. There are more details about the work that we're doing with Summer of Action because of compliance and ethics approval. I have to be careful about what I announce, but I will tell you this. It is not performative. In fact, we're working to develop boot camp organizing in every community that we go to in partnership with those elected officials and the Congressional Black Caucus member. For example, as you know, we have an annual boot camp where we bring organizers from across the country into DC. We're going to take that same model and embed it in individual communities. Why? Because we don't want this to just be a one-off event, one day. We actually want to seed and invest in the community with organizers who can help keep the work going around voting, around protecting our schools and our children's right to an education, making sure that people know what their rights are around voting and the decisions that are coming down either by the U.S. Supreme Court, state legislatures, or other local bodies like school boards. So this is absolutely about the work on the ground that's necessary and it's being led by our members and in partnerships with a lot of other organizations.
Greg?
Thank you.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Brother Chairman. Good to see you, Fred. A couple of things. I looked at the principal guests in attendance, and maybe I missed it. I'm sure maybe there was somebody in the room, perhaps academic, who came from HBCUs. But since obviously a lot of this work is going to be taking place behind the cotton curtain, I would just encourage you, as folk going to those southern states in particular, to draw on the academic expertise, and particularly on the notion of exclusion of history and all this, on not only K-12 folk in those cities and in those places, but in that HBCU faculty, which as far as I'm concerned is the great untapped resources. And among those attendees, I saw several friends of mine who are really not connected with those folks. So the same academics seem to be getting invited to the meeting. But that in mind, I want to ask, just follow up with what Lauren asked, legislation, litigation, and mobilization. In that framework, how do you see this differing from previous iterations and work? We know that we beat the bushes. We're out there organizing, trying to get the voter turnout hasn't surged. What can we learn from previous iterations of the CBC? I'm thinking about now the 1960s and 70s. What can we learn from that and apply that today, so that this might be different than the last cycles where we've tried to really kind of get folk together to fight back?
Professor, good to see you. Two things. The summit was just an initial meeting, and while we did do the best that we could to invite as many people into the process, I'm sure there are other people that should have been in the room, and we'll work hard to make sure we continue to improve that in the future. But let me also say, we heard from representatives from Professor Kimberly Crenshaw. We had former Attorney General Eric Holder, our own members that were providing updates on the legislation that we've already been working on around voting rights, around preservation of Black history, and other efforts to make sure that we are protecting these fundamental rights. And as you said, we have to work with our HBCUs and the local communities in partnership. In some of the summer of action activities, we will actually be doing at HBCUs, and we'll do it in partnership with professors and students. They know they are part of the process. So thank you for that instruction and critique. I'm always open to receive input, as Roland knows. My job, and I'm going to answer your last question by saying this: it is this generation, it's our turn to carry the baton. It's the generations before that were able to get the Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act approved, and now it's our generation to make sure not only do we preserve those rights, but that we advance and enhance them going forward. We know that they're under attack. Blackness is under attack. Our very existence and survival as a people, whether that's from gun violence, from police brutality, from poor economic conditions, and that is why the Congressional Black Caucus exists, to advance and make rights to these freedoms are not, and we carry them to the next generation.
All right, Congressman Stephen Horsford, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Look forward to seeing what is next. Thanks a lot. Folks, going to a quick break. When we come back, Congressman Jamall Bowman responds to that nutcase Marjorie Taylor Greene, who says, he called me a white supremacist. That's as bad as being called the N-word. Girl, bye. I'll be back.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Next, right here on The Frequency, the woman they call the Gifted Eye, hip-hop celebrity photographer Coy Soldier. She's the master storyteller that captured the history of hip-hop through the lens of her camera.
Tupac comes out, the next thing you know, you didn't know who they were at first. You just seen all these dudes just come rushing the stage. Then you realize Biggie gets a bottle of champagne, he pops it open, sprays it on the crowd, he drinks the bottle.
Coy Soldier, the hip-hop celebrity photographer, joining me right here on the next episode of The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
My name is Charlie Wilson.
Hi, I'm Sally Richardson Whitfield.
And I'm Dondre Whitfield.
Hey everybody, this is your man Fred Hammond, and you're watching Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, yesterday, after Republicans blocked a bill that would expel George Santos, that lying fool went on the steps of the Capitol, held a news conference, and then he was followed by the other liar, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Congressman Jamall Bowman. Let's just say he had a few words for both of those idiots on the steps there, where Greene, she was just so offended that she held a news conference today, and, just the white tears were flowing.
I had to have so much security. There was not enough. I was swarmed. It's all on video. Everyone can see this. But I will tell you what's on video is Jamall Bowman shouting at the top of his lungs, cursing, calling me a horrible, calling me a white supremacist, which I take great offense to. That is like calling a person of color the N-word, which should never happen. Calling me a white supremacist is equal to that, and that is wrong. Jamall Bowman was down there cursing at me, telling me to get the F out of there, and he was leading the mob right outside the vehicle I was sitting in. We have this all on video. And then on the Capitol steps yesterday, he was the one that approached me. Even CNN reported that. Yelling, shouting, raising his voice. He has aggressive, his physical mannerisms are aggressive. And he just recently shoved Thomas Massey just outside the House chamber. I think there's a lot of concern about Jamall Bowman. So, and I am concerned about it. I feel threatened by him. He not only led a mob there, but his boisterous lies. And I'll tell you another thing he said outside there. He was saying, save your...
Enough of that fool. The scary black man joins us right now, Congressman Jamall Bowman. Boy, you done scared. Wait, isn't this the same person who literally was verbally attacking members of Congress when she showed up in D.C.?
Verbally attacking members of Congress, taking pictures with an AR-15 with my sisters from the squad behind her in a picture, stalking and chastising the young man, David Haig, who leads the March for Our Lives movement, stalking AOC at her congressional office. Yeah, this is her. And now all of a sudden, she's intimidated by me. And, what does she say? My physical mannerisms are aggressive. But Roland, this is an old school playbook. But this is an old school playbook that's very dangerous and reckless and leads to the targeting and killing of black men throughout history, whether it's Emmett Till or Tamir Rice or Mike Brown. Once a white person says they feared for their lives, that's it. Now they have clearance to kill a black person simply because they are black. So that's why I respond very, very assertively today, just calling it out for what it was. And she needs to be held accountable. She needs to be asked very directly by journalists, do you want to see harm done to Congressman Bowman? That's what she needs to be asked, and she needs to be held accountable for what she said.
Well, and again, I mean, this is somebody who has been loud, boisterous. And last I checked, isn't this the same dumbass who stood up in the State of the Union yelling, hollering, and pointing her finger at the President of the United States?
Yes, that's her. I mean, this has been her MO since she's gotten into Congress. Her MO has been aggressive confrontation with the Democratic Party and specifically towards members of the Democratic Party who are of color. I mean, if you watch my engagement, yesterday, it wasn't even aggressive. It was more gregarious and more of a friendly banter, if you will, where I was pretty much telling her, do something with your party. They should have expelled George Santos. Get your man out of here and save your party because y'all are hanging by a thread. She was the one, if you look at the video, her hand was in my face, and she was smiling the entire time. So she probably went to bed, slept on it, thought about it, and was like, you know what? If I say X, Y, and Z tomorrow, I could not just put a target on his back, but I could raise a lot of money from my base as a result of that. So that's who she is. That's who they are. QAnon, MAGA, conspiracy theory Republicans. And that's why we got to vote them out next year and vote the right people in so we can do some real governing.
Last point, and your point is obviously fundraising, but let's also be honest with what really happened here. They were defending a massive liar. And this is a liar, correct. Marjorie Taylor Greene, defending a liar, George Santos. So a liar defending a liar.
A liar defending a liar, and that's why we have to speak truth to power, and we have to be relentless in our pushback, because if we don't, their lies will occupy the minds of the American people to the point where people will either come out and vote for that nonsense or stay home. And we can't have people staying home next year, not only when it comes to the presidency in the House, but we got to take a few more seats in the Senate. That's the only way we're going to get voting rights, gun control, women's right to choose, and everything we've been fighting for decades. We got to turn out strong in 2024.
Indeed, Congressman Jamall Bowman, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. I guess she wants you to walk around with a teddy bear in the halls of Congress because you're just too vocal.
Peace and love, y'all. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Lauren, look, this is a drama queen. She's also an idiot. That's what she is. And people have to understand. And again, when people, if you don't vote in your district and then a Republican wins, you empower someone like her. Remember, when Republicans were in the minority, she was stripped of her committees. She sat here and cut a deal with Kevin McCarthy. He has empowered this fool who has lots of power now that Republicans control the House.
Right. I mean, I think it's likely that, the Democrats, I think, have a pretty good shot with members like her around doing these types of stunts of getting the, House back in 2024. But you never know. The truth of the matter is that the Democratic Party needs more messengers like Jamaal Bowman. Jamall Bowman is dangerous, all right. He's dangerous for people who are lying. He's dangerous for Byron Donalds. He's dangerous for Thomas Massey. He's dangerous for anybody who's just going to lie or ignore, school shootings where 9-year-olds are getting murdered, at their school. So, yeah, he's problematic because Jamall Bowman is the lethal combination of assertiveness and intelligence. And when you have intelligence going up against people who are not very bright, they get exposed. And you'll notice that Marjorie Taylor Greene is at her angriest when she gets exposed by somebody who's clearly more smart, a lot smarter than she is, namely people like Congresswoman AOC, again from New York. She seems to have a thing for New Yorkers, by the way, if you notice. AOC, she stalked at her office and talked through the mail slat in AOC's door, which was one of the strangest events on Capitol Hill in a long time. She had a real obsession with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had done absolutely nothing to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I wrote a piece for The Guardian, I think it was last year sometime. There was a legitimate and very persistent concern that one of 3 members of Congress was going to bring a firearm onto the floor of the House. And at the time, there were metal detectors up because Speaker Pelosi at the time had installed metal detectors. One of those 3 members, were Lauren Boebert, Madison Cawthorn, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. They were going to bring a firearm onto the floor of the House. That's where she stands. Another example, right. Just like Jim, no governance, no nothing, just stunts all day long. All day long.
Here's the deal here, Greg, that we have to understand, and that is, to Lauren's point, Republicans, they have their firebrands. They go out there, they yell, holler, scream, and whatever, but they also drive their base. Democrats like to be all nice and more gentle. No, sometimes you got to call folk out and light that ass up.
You're absolutely right, Roland. And, you know, this is a hard one for me because I like Jamall Bowman. Every time I've seen that brother, he's affable, he's good-natured. You know, Byron Donalds, who's a huge clown, literally and figuratively. Even when he's clowning Byron Donalds, he got a smile on his face. But let me be very clear about this. And he said this on the steps of the Capitol in the wake of this woman doing what she did. She put a target on his back, man. She put a target on his back. She's weaponizing. You know, God forbid anything happened to him. But this, it was right behind my teeth. I paused. So let me just say it another way. Marjorie Taylor Greene with her home gym, neighborhood gym look and her WWF couture looking like Ric Flair on the floor of the National Legislature with her arms out. God only knows what this beast does, roaming around with whoa in her mind. She put a target on that brother's back. Do you understand what it means when you say you're threatened by a black person? AOC, you say, Lauren, I mean, she don't wear a buck dripping wet, but even she came up behind him and said, bro, she's not worth it. She had a smile on her face because what she's signaling is kill him. I mean, it's all jokes aside. This goes back to even Abe Jones. We got to punch these crackers in the face. Oh, that came out of my mouth. It was right behind my teeth, and it came. Let me pause. We have to take very seriously the fact that they are weaponizing. It isn't just about voting, although it's about that. It isn't just about mobilizing. This is about deputizing every person in the country to say, harm this man. The nicest guy, like say, bright, but hey, if I take you down, it's because I fear for my. This is the I fear for my life rhetoric. We laughing, but let's take this very seriously. She put a target on Jamall Bowman's back. And my response to that finally is this. We need to put a target on their backs. Break their damn backs. What the hell is wrong with us? You can't make peace with these people. It was a reason I asked Representative Horsford about what you've learned from history. This is the 1850s. They're 5 seconds short from starting to cane people on the floor of the damn National Legislature. They are ready to kill people. And in fact, they are killing people. And what are we doing? Trying to make nice. Hell no. Is it going to take somebody getting killed for us to finally say, let's dance?
Avis, folks better understand these Republicans, they are extremely dangerous because they are absolutely in bed with white supremacists. I got about 60 seconds to go.
Well, I just have to say amen to Dr. Carr. I mean, he was right on the money. And, you know, it's interesting. He calls her Ric Flair. I think of her as He-Man, but the situation is the same. Okay. She uses violent rhetoric all the time. And this was a very shrewd way of her to say, this big black man threatened me. And we know who she is speaking to. This is a party that appeals not only to white supremacists, but to violent white terrorists. And that's exactly who she was conjuring up with those comments.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, all right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back, going to get an update on this case out of Delaware State. Remember where the women's lacrosse team was pulled over by, again, these racist cops? It keeps happening, but you know how it is. To be black in this country, it is what it is. And so we'll talk to the attorney for 25 of the 27 folks who were on that bus. If you're also on YouTube, hit the like button, y'all. Why am I asking y'all to do this? I see all y'all on here, nearly 3,000. You comment like crazy. Why don't we have as many likes? Impacts the algorithm. So please hit the like button. If you're watching our app, please share your comments as well in the OTT app. Speaking of the app, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, watch us on Amazon News. If you go to Amazon Fire, all you got to do is go to Amazon News. You can watch our 24-hour streaming channel on that particular platform. We appreciate that. Also, if you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club, send your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Shout out to Yvette Tingle, Smiley, Mason Moulton, Earl, also Joseph Lagarde, Marilyn Platinum, Kevin Whitehead, James Smith, Helen Smith, Greta Castro, Jackie Kinkle, Mark Grant, Ronald Mitchell, Tina Winston, Preston, LP McIntyre, Shafar Flowers, Robert Davis, Ed Kirk, Frank Williams, Shakori Richardson, Cynthia Wilder, Reginald Campbell, Michael Norris, Erica George, Kenneth, let's see, Black Knight, John Perrin, Theodore Green, Angela McKinney, Abdullah Shuab, Cherry Jackson, Chandra, Laverne King, Leola Yarbray, Janice, Christopher Wilson, as well as Denise Hardy, Shavian Sars, Clarence Chappelle, Michael Potts, Walter, Randy Faison, Andre Wilson, Mark Abrams, Marvin Hunter, Orrin Leary, Vincent Bush, Chantel, Crystal Handy, Wanda Bennett Gould, for all contributing to our show. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. We'll be right back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hey, I'm Cupid, the maker of the Cupid Shuffle and the Wham Dance.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan. And if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The DOJ and a Georgia Sheriff's Office have reached an agreement with regards to a racial discrimination complaint filed by HBCU Delaware State. Now, you might remember Liberty County deputies stopped and searched the Delaware State University women's lacrosse team bus when they were driving in the left lane on I-95. This was in April of 2022. Officers asked the players if the players had drugs on the bus before searching the team's belongings. Law enforcement did not find any contraband. The players believed they were racially profiled. University filed a complaint with the DOJ accusing the Liberty County Sheriff's Office of violating the Civil Rights Act. Monday, the DOJ and Liberty County Sheriff's Office agreed to a settlement that includes more training, community engagement, and reviewing policy and procedures. The attorney representing some of the players says the agreement simply is not enough. Joining us now from Trumbull, Connecticut, is attorney Greg Terron. Greg, glad to have you on the show. So that's it? That's it?
That's it. That's, in the words of one of my clients, it was a slap on the wrist, but I think it was a tap on the wrist.
You represent 25 of the 27 folks who were on the bus, correct?
As of today, the other two, hopefully coming forward, are just strategically haven't been able to sign agreements.
What do you want out of this? What do they want to see done?
Well, I think they want an examination of their civil rights, which includes the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution, which protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, and also the Title VI of the U.S. Code, which is the Civil Rights Act of 1964, racially profiling them to search the bus after the officers realized that there were black college lacrosse players on the bus.
Well, it's abundantly clear.
They want justice, Roland. And justice doesn't mean that the United States Justice Department, in its role to investigate crimes, takes the internal investigation of the Liberty County Sheriff's Office, which was drafted by their own attorney. They took that as the facts in the case and decided not to go ahead with an investigation. So the first thing we want, and we should have, and the people of the United States of America should have, is a thorough investigation by the Justice Department rather than taking the sheriff's internal report for the truth of the facts.
Well, I mean, it's no doubt this was racial profiling. I mean, this ain't hard to see. I mean, why else would you pull them over in this bogus, explanation, and then, asking the driver, was he on drugs? Did he have drugs? I mean, come on.
Well, the facts are very important, and the sequence of the facts are very important. In the final report of the Sheriff's Office, which just came out yesterday, there are a number of inconsistencies. It's interesting that they say that within 2 minutes of pulling over the bus, they had a dog on the site sniffing the cargo hold. Now, the bus had tinted windows. If the bus was in fact way down in front of the deputy that pulled them over, he could not have seen the only window that was not tinted, which would have been the driver's window, and the driver was black. Tim Jones said he never saw the deputy. The deputy never came up alongside him. So the bus was pulled over for a reason that they put into their report as being traveling in the left lane, when in fact my client says, no, he was passing in the left lane. There's a huge difference. So if the stop was illegal from the beginning, everything else consequent to that cannot be legal.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, when the bus was pulled over and Tim came off the bus and handed over his license, it was then after that that the deputy got on the bus, saw what he had, and he heard that they were college students, saw who they were, and he instructed the deputy that's in charge of the sniffing dog, whose name is Kona, to go and sniff. I would like to interview Kona, if anybody knows dog language. I want to know what Kona sniffed, because according to the report, the dog picked up something. And so they pulled out luggage and personal items of some of my clients, pulled apart their luggage, actually took apart and unwrapped a gift that was given to one of my clients and from her aunt, and it had nothing. And in fact, you can see it right there in his hand. You can see that box was a gift. And what it was a book safe. All it was a simple gift. It didn't have, there was nothing in it. Now, these deputies were supposed to be doing an interdiction, not a personal inspection of people's goods to find out if they could find a little bit of contraband. That's not the purpose of what they were supposed to be there for.
Well, will we see what is happening? Are you planning on filing a civil lawsuit against the department?
Absolutely. And the deputies, all of them, and the sheriff.
Okay.
In federal court in Georgia.
All right. Greg, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
You bet. Thank you.
I'm going to take a quick break, come back, talk to my panel about this. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're talking about leveling up, or to put it another way, living your very best life. How to take a bold step forward that'll rock your world.
Leveling up is different for everybody. You know, I think we fall into this trap, which often gets us stuck because we're looking at someone else's level up journey, what leveling up means to them. For some, it might be a business venture. For some, it might be a relationship situation, but it's different for everybody.
It's all a part of A Balanced Life. That's next on Black Star Network.
Hello, everyone. It's Kiara Sheard.
Hey, I'm Taj.
I'm Coco.
And I'm Lily. And we're SWV.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
We've had this story and others. There was another story where these troopers along this Georgia highway had stopped a black group. I mean, look, game recognized game, Avis. We know what the deal is. These white cops ain't fooling nobody. It was straight up racial profiling, and I hope they sue, and I hope they beat their asses in court.
Absolutely. It was profiling. It was harassment, actually. I feel really bad for these young women who were out there representing their university, looking to participate in their sports, and to have to be targeted in this way, and let's just say likely humiliated in this way for no other reason than the fact that they were black is very ridiculous. And so I'm so happy that they have legal representation, and I'm hoping that they will sue each and everybody involved, which it sounds like it's what they're doing, because they deserve to be completely well compensated as a result of that transgression. Lauren?
Yeah, I'm wondering why they haven't sued already. What's taking so long? It was April 2022. Why haven't they sued already? Why hasn't a civil lawsuit been filed already? This is not, the 1950s or whatever that we're reliving with these idiot incidents that are clearly racially motivated. There's no way in this world that anybody can ever imagine that some white baseball team would be stopped and frisked in the same exact way. And, you got to love the fact, too, there's probably at least, 30 people on that team at minimum. And so you mean to tell me they searched the entire bus and found absolutely nothing, right? Of course, because there was nothing. There was nothing to find. But you can't find in the news a comparable incident where, these troopers in Georgia, sheriff's office in Georgia is stopping a white bunch of dudes going to play baseball or something like that. No way in the world. Hockey. I mean, it's outrageous. I'm shocked that a suit has not been filed already. I wonder what the delay is. And I think they should make as big of a deal out of it as possible. These are the types of things that we should not be okay with or getting used to or shrugging our shoulders at. This is nonsense. It is complete nonsense.
Greg?
Absolutely, Lauren. And Roland, when the autopsy of this criminal enterprise called United States of America is written, a key piece of it will be the failure of the federal framework. We have to remember that it has only been through federal intervention that anything close to some form of equity as it relates to rights, human rights, and has been affected. These white nationalists have been the same throughout the history of this criminal enterprise. And it has only been when the federal government got involved, with all due respect to the Civil Rights Division and our friend Kristen Clark and everything she did. I read the memorandum of agreement. What the hell? They've got a line in there. They got a paragraph called facilitated dialogue. Boy, I got to stop myself tonight. These people at the sheriff's office have offered to meet with the students, the driver, and coaches involved. And they say in the memorandum of agreement, if the offer is accepted, this meeting will be held in a safe, supportive, and inclusive environment. Where the hell is that going to be? Nigeria, South Africa, or Brazil? Because it damn sure ain't the United States of America. The federal government has to intervene. This is why these people in these states get away with it. We've got to pay attention. In the next couple of weeks, you're going to be reporting on these Supreme Court decisions. They have gone to the mattresses, everyone, in the state houses, in the local, and they are daring the federal government to stop them. And right now, the federal government has abandoned any idea that they're going to do anything. And as a result, this thing is getting ready to go so far south that once it goes that way, it's not going to be put back together again. This is not just a small thing. It's representative of some much larger cycle in the history of this country.
Indeed. And look, I just need folks to realize that when we talk about sheriff's offices, sheriffs are elected positions. They are elected positions. And when we stay home or when we don't maximize our numbers, then guess what? We get that. And look, I get it. There are a lot of places that are hardcore areas that are, overly Republican. But it's a lot of places that people keep making a mistake. Like in Tennessee, 75% of those races in Tennessee, when people ran, they ran unopposed.
Teach.
It's kind of easy to win when nobody runs against you. And so we just need to understand that. All right, quick break. We come back. Final comments on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Black TV does matter, dang it.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jacob Lattimore, and you're now watching Roland Martin right now. Yee.
All right, so all week I've been talking about Fox News and the right being pissed off with President Biden's speech to the Howard University graduates on Saturday. And so I didn't see Greg Carr at the graduation, so I got to get his thoughts on the total right-wing freak out because Biden chose to discuss white supremacy in his speech as if that was the first time he did, when it didn't. And then, of course, you had that fool Rachel Campos Duffy on Fox News who called the Howard University graduates dumb. Now, Jesse Waters in his commentary tried to praise them as being smart and brilliant, but we know he's pretty stupid himself.
Bro, why would you pull me in there, brother? You know I was in Philadelphia with our friend and brother Martin Lamont Hill. I wasn't going nowhere near no Joe Biden speech. And as far as that's concerned, the last, and I don't miss commencement. I'm very serious about the high holy days at HBCUs. I went to one. This is the first time in 23 years at Howard that I did not put on my robe for the recognition ceremonies or for commencement. And a great deal of that has to do with the current administration, quite frankly. I feel very strongly about the neoliberal university. I feel very strongly about celebrity clout chasing models for higher education. And I feel very strongly about the idea that some HBCUs have now become to aspire to be DEIUs, in fact, diverse, equity, and inclusion universities. So I wasn't even there to hear Joe Biden. Of course, we're going to expect this kind of thing in terms of attacking. But quite frankly, that makes it easier for folk to do less. Because even with the critical race theory stuff and the AP African-American Studies course and all that, people can be very heroic when open white supremacists attack everything. The challenge we have is to be the kind of black that ignores that and pushes forward. And I'm very skeptical about where we are in higher education in general. Joe Biden picked up some cheap points on Saturday, and I certainly wasn't going to sit there and bear witness to it. But I do want to mention, Roland, that, again, happy Haitian Flag Day. We have to raise the name of the legendary Catherine Flon, who, when Jean-Jacques Dessalines ripped the white out the middle of the Haitian flag after the French killed Toussaint in the jail, said, "You'll never mistake the Haitian flag for the French flag again." And the sister Catherine Flon, the legend has it, stitched together the red and the blue, brother, with the little white square in the middle that says, "In unity there is strength." So shout out to that sister who is the mother of the Haitian flag. Damn Bessie Ross, who I would put with Joe Biden, who was probably there in Philadelphia when she was stitching that other flag. But anyway, I wasn't there.
Avis. Fox News been on a tear all week. They're just so upset because he called out white supremacists.
Yeah, well, they can stay mad as far as I'm concerned. There was nothing that he said that was incorrect. It's factual. In fact, it's not news. I mean, for years, forever, honestly, the biggest terrorist threat in America has been white men. And it still is that. That is still the case today. But we all know that they have an aversion to facts, right? We all know that. That's why they owe $1 gazillion and is about to be sued again. So, what could we expect? That's what we can expect from these folks. They continue to lie. They continue to to sort of thwart the truth. And when they are confronted with the reality of the violence of the constituency that they seem to be bending over trying to appeal to, instead of acknowledging it, they're going to sit there and have freak out temper tantrums in the way that we just saw that they did.
Lauren.
Well, I mean, to Dr. Carr's point, I feel like we're in like a moment here the last 5 or 6 years where the federal government is not up to the task of what's going on. Certainly Merrick Garland is not up to the task of what's going on. I mean, we're seeing real violence in real time. We saw Mother Emanuel. We obviously saw Buffalo. We saw the attack on the Capitol. We saw a race riot in Charlottesville. We're seeing members of Congress openly say that they're okay with white supremacists in our military. We got a member of Congress who has a white supremacist on his staff. That would be Paul Gosar. We see DeSantis fundraising for some guy that killed a black guy on the subway in New York, proudly fundraising as if it's some badge of honor to fundraise because a black man was killed. We saw that same sort of thing with Eric Garner, with that cop, Dan Pantaleo. They gave him, they raised his salary and they gave him a nice desk job and all this other stuff because he killed Eric Garner. I mean, they rewarded him. And this is all out in the open. And nobody seems to be pushing back hard enough on this, in my view. It's good to see the Black Caucus is planning something, but we got to get real with the reality that we're living with over the last few years. I'd say the last 6 or 7. Donald Trump has basically made it fashionable to be openly racist.
Yep.
And this party has made violence fashionable.
Well, again, they know exactly who their supporters are, and that's why they're catering to them. Avis, Lauren, Greg, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much, folks. I will see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Do not forget, download our app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. Without you, it's not going to happen, y'all. P.O. Box, send check and money orders. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get your copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million. Download your copy on Audible. I will see y'all tomorrow. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.